witnessing an event graced by the presence of one of the most distinguished persons in the nation, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Member of Parliament and Chairman, Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, who will be addressing the August gathering on the topic, Kerala's Development, Opportunities for the Youth. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, the largest professional accounting body in the world, has, since its inception, played an indispensable role in making the accountancy profession an integral part of India's success story. Being the premier accounting body of our country, ICAI has also been recognized as a partner in nation building. The Thrissur Management Association, affiliated with the All India Management Association, was established in 1989 and has, since then, been religiously committed to promoting leadership, professional development, and knowledge sharing. Through its various initiatives and activities, the association continues its mission of building knowledge, nurturing leadership, and contributing to the growth of their professional and academic community. Now, let me officially begin by cordially inviting the dignitaries for today's event onto the dais. C.A. Rajesh Menon, Secretary, Thrissur Branch of ICAI. C.A. Shaji P.J., Secretary, Thrissur Management Association. Dr. C.A. Shantakumar K., Program Coordinator. C.A. Babu Abraham Kallivailal, Central Council Member, ICAI. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Member of Parliament and Chairman, Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs. Accompanied by Shri Padmakumar C., President of Thrissur Management Association, and C.A. Sanjo Nambadan, Chairperson, Thrissur Branch of ICAI.
ഹൃദയ രാഗതന്ത്രിമീട്ടി സ്നേഹഗീതമേകിയും കർമ്മഭൂമി തളിരിടുന്ന വർണ്ണമേകിയും നമ്മിൽ വാഴുമാദിനാമം ഇന്നു വാഴ്ത്തിടാം ഞങ്ങൾ പാടുമീ സ്വരങ്ങൾ കീർത്തനങ്ങളാകണേ ചുവടുവയ്ക്കുമീ പദങ്ങൾ നൃത്തലോലമാകണേ കുഞ്ഞു വീടിനുൾക്കളങ്ങൾ സ്വർഗമാകണേ അമ്മ നൽകുമുമ്മ പോലും അമൃതമാകണേ പൂർവമീ ചരാചരങ്ങൾ ഗുരുവരങ്ങളാകണേ ഹൃദയ രാഗതന്ത്രിമീട്ടി.
Invite Shri Padmakumar C., President of the Thrissur Management Association, to deliver the welcome speech.
Respected Chief Guests, other distinguished dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my great privilege and honor to welcome you all to this special occasion of the joint program of Thrissur Management Association and Institute of Chartered Accountants, Thrissur Branch. Today we celebrate a proud moment as we welcome one of the world's most respected leaders and orator and Member of Parliament, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. On behalf of TMA and Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Shashi Tharoor.
I request Mr. Pratap Varki, Vice President of Thrissur Management Association, to kindly present a bouquet to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Thank you, sir.
I am privileged to welcome C.A. Sanjo Nambadan, Chairperson of ICAI Thrissur Chapter. C.A. Babu Abraham Kallivel, ICAI Central Committee Member. We are privileged to have with us today. Welcome, sir.
I request C.A. Varghese Paul, Vice Chairperson of Thrissur Branch of ICAI, to kindly present a bouquet to C.A. Babu Abraham Kallivailal.
Next, I see Dr. K. Shantakumar, past President of TMA and today's Program Coordinator, who played a key role in bringing our chief guest today. I also take the opportunity to extend a warm welcome to C.A. Shaji PJ, Honorary Secretary of TMA, C.A. Rajesh Menon, Honorary Secretary of Institute of Chartered Accountants India. Next, I welcome to C.A. T.S. Anandaraman, past President of TMA, former Chairman of CSB, Catholic Savings Bank of India, who will be delivering a felicitation address today. Welcome, sir. I am also delighted to welcome Mr. Padavarki, Vice President of TMA, C.A. Varghese Paul, Vice Chairman of ICAI. A heartfelt welcome to office bearers of both TMA and ICAI, past chairman and past presidents of TMA, managing committee members of TMA and ICAI, students, member of media, and all other distinguished invited guests. As special mention today, Ms. Sweda and Mr. Ajit Kamal, Master of Ceremonies today. A warm welcome each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma Kumar, sir. Now, I invite C.A. Sanjo Nambadan, Chairperson, Thrissur Branch of ICAI, for the presidential address.
Most respected Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, MP. Most respected Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Central Council Member, C.A. Babu Abraham Kallivailal, sir. Other respected members on and off the dais. Very good evening to all of you. It is with immense pride and great privilege that I welcome you all to this distinguished joint program organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Thrissur Branch, and Thrissur Management Association. This collaborative spirit, bringing together leaders in finance, accountancy, and management, truly underscores our commitment to intellectual enrichment and civic discourse here in Thrissur. We extend a special welcome to all our esteemed members of ICAI and TMA. Our senior members, both from ICAI and TMA, respected guests, and students who represent the future of our professions. Today, we have the singular honor of hosting a personality whose intellectual prowess, depth of knowledge, and articulate commentary resonate across national and international forums. He is a globally respected diplomat, an acclaimed author, a brilliant orator, and a dedicated public servant, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, MP. Sir, we are deeply grateful you have taken out of your incredibly busy schedule to be with us here today in this seminar hall in Thrissur. Your insights, particularly on Kerala's development, opportunities for the youth, are keenly anticipated by the Assembly of Financial and Managerial Professionals. As chartered accountants and management professionals, our daily work requires us to navigate complex regulatory landscapes and provide strategic vision. Today's session offers us a unique opportunity to gain a macro perspective from one of India's leading thinkers, challenging us to look beyond ledgers and balance sheets into the broader socio-economic and geopolitical currents that shape our future. Also, our young team of students, both from ICAI and management schools, who are trying to shape their future, are eager to hear the words of wisdom. On behalf of both Thrissur Branch of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and Thrissur Management Association, thank you, sir, for inspiring us with your presence. We have a galaxy of professionals and management experts assembled here to add color to this function. The torchbearer of Kerala Chartered Accountants, CA Babu Abraham Kallivel, sir, thank you for your presence, for being over here, sir. I should place on record my sincere thanks to Dr. C.A. Shantakumar K., who excellently coordinated this arrival of Dr. Shashi Tharoor into these premises. So thank you, Dr. Shantakumar, sir. And I also place on record my sincere thanks to Thrissur Management Association for effectively coordinating the function along with ICAI Thrissur. Now, without taking any more time away from the intellectual feast that awaits us, let me conclude and wish you a wonderful evening with Knowledge Fiesta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjo sir. The chief guest of today's event is, in every sense, a true legend, an epitome of visionary leadership. Dr. Shashi Tharoor effortlessly brings with him his unmatched aura of excellence to every room that he walks into. Highly experienced, both as a practicing politician and a scholar of international affairs and development, it is evident that Dr. Shashi Tharoor has his finger on the pulse of the nation, its culture, and its politics. We are beyond honored to have you here with us today, sir. I now request Dr. C.A. K. Shantakumar, Program Coordinator, to kindly speak a few words about our distinguished chief guest for the day.
Good evening, everyone. Respected chief guest of this evening, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the presiding officer of this function, CA Sanjo Nambadan, the president of the Thrissur Management Association, Mr. Padma Kumar, Mr. Babu Abraham Kallivel, Central Council member of this Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. If one were to think as the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India as a nation, and the members and the student fraternity together, in the ballpark of 8 lakh people, constitute the citizens, then Babu will be the member of parliament of that country. The other dignitaries on and off the dais, the dignitaries, guests, invitees, my colleagues in both in the CA fraternity and in the Management Association, friends from the media. Before I start introducing Mr. Tharoor, let me first thank him for accepting my request to come and address the gathering. And while it was told that I am the person who was instrumental in coming Tharoor to this function, there is another person, Mr. Srinivasan, who is sitting here. You may not be knowing him much. His father was the chairman of the South Indian Bank. He hails from Thrissur. He studied in Thrissur Engineering College and did his IIM from Calcutta. Then he joined the civil service. Vijay Kumar sir and all will be knowing him. Then he quit and he joined as the private secretary to Karunakaran when he was both the state minister and central minister, and now he is into business. So while I was doing the pulling, he was doing the push. The push and the pull saw to it that he's here. And actually, Mr. Srinivasan was instrumental in him coming to Thrissur to Jubilee Mission Hospital. So when he came to Thrissur, I requested Srinivasan and requested Tharoor sir to come and address our gathering. Friends, I'm not venturing into giving a long talk or introduction to Shashi Tharoor for two reasons. One is, you might have heard about Raghuvamsha by Kalidasa. Sri Ramachandra, the god Sri Ramachandra belonged to the dynasty of Raghu. And in the introductory remark of the Raghuvamsha, Kalidasan said, Mandha kaviyasha prarthi gamishyabi ubahasyadam pramshulabhe bhale lobad udbahuriva vamana. Loosely translated, he said, he is actually like a dwarf with his tiny hands stretching to reach at a mango which is beyond a giant's reach. I am also very humbled to accept this invitation and introduce Dr. Tharoor. The second reason is Dr. Tharoor is a living legend, and most of you would be knowing it. Some of them will be personally, and others through his words and deeds which are brilliant. Tharoor is a person who is most sought after in the world, one of the best speakers in the world. And Dr. Tharoor, his everyday life is packed with a lot of programs. So for him to accept all invitations and come all over is difficult because his days are packed. But he's a very nice and sweet man. He never rejects or objects to it. Only time is a constraint. So the only solution I can find is that let us have cloning of humans, and Shashi Tharoor should be the first person so that he can have his omnipresence all over and satisfy the needs of the people who wants him to be heard at each nook and corner of the country. Here also, we are also constrained because of time, because you don't want a long introduction. So that takes my mind to the Dean of Delhi University. The Dean of the Delhi University was asked once to introduce the Nobel laureate, Pearl S. Beck, and he introduced her in just one sentence. Here is Paul S. Buck. That's all what he said. So friends, with equal simplicity, but with infinite admiration, I also say, here we have amongst us not only a chief guest, but the voice of India to the world, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Thank you, sir.
We shall now move on to the most important part of today's event. Kerala as a state has always been at the forefront when it comes to literacy, health, life expectancy rates, and various other indicators of good living standards. The state is also endowed with a pool of young, talented individuals who are eager to know of the prospects that Kerala has to offer to them. Who better to guide and educate them than our chief guest for the day, who has donned many a hat in the fields of governance and development. Respected Shashi Tharoor, sir, may I now request you to kindly address the gathering on the topic, Kerala's development, opportunities for the youth.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for your very kind and generous words about me, and thank you to all the audience who've shown up here in such large numbers. I'm sorry for the young people who are standing at the back. I hope I'll try and make it worthwhile for you, but if not, why don't you just squat on the aisles and be comfortable. It'll be lovely to see you all sitting through the speech. Mr. Sanju Nambaran, the chairperson of the Thrissur Branch of ICAI, Sri Padma Kumar, the president of the Thrissur Management Association, my good friend Shanta Kumar, who worked with me in the former All India Professionals Congress office here, the moderator of the interaction to follow, Mr. Shaji, Mr. Kallivail, Mr. Rajesh Menon. I hope I haven't left anybody else out. Very, very good to see you all here, and എല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ വിനീതമായ നമസ്കാരം. So I'm really delighted to be here at this wonderful building of the Institute of Chartered Accountants to address this joint meeting with the Thrissur Management Association and to speak on a topic that's close to all of our hearts and important for all of our lives. Kerala's development, and certainly for the young people here, what I think should be of interest and concern to the youth in terms of your opportunities to help shape that development. I must say that it's a gathering for me that, first of all, should begin with paying homage to the spirits and the values of peace, progress, pluralism, and passion, which I think have always galvanized the Malayali mind and the indomitable spirit of our state. I think we, the children of Kerala, in many ways, as our MC just mentioned, have taken the nation by storm, excelling in all sorts of fields, from engineering to medicine, from politics to fine arts, and bringing to all regions where we drop anchor our cherished values of pluralism and progress. And so I'm very happy to accept your invitation to share my vision of Kerala's future with you. One thing is clear if we look around the globe. In order to be innovative and industrious and therefore financially successful, a nation must invest in its people. And look at all the successful nations, they've done that right. And fortunately, that's the one thing we've got right. Kerala has invested in its people. And so, I've been writing about this for some time, and over the nearly 7 decades of my existence, ever since my first sojourn, thank you, as a child in my ancestral village in Palakkad. I'm a Marunadu Malayali, born in London, brought up in Bombay, high school in Calcutta, college in Delhi. So in many ways, I'm a pan-Indian Malayali, but every year we used to come back to the villages of my parents for vacations. And so I was always conscious of my roots in Kerala, which happened to be in Palakkad and not in Thiruvananthapuram that I represent in Parliament. But in those visits, I must say I saw the remarkable transformations of Malayali society year to year as a visiting observer. And in my 1997 book, India from Midnight to the Millennium, I chronicled what I described as the Malayali miracle, that Kerala has achieved the human development indicators of the United States I talked about at that time on 1/20th of the American per capita income. In fact, our infant mortality and maternal mortality figures today are better than those of the US. The infant mortality rate, for example, stands at 5.6 per 1,000 live births in the US, but Kerala is lower at just 5 per 1,000. This is no small achievement. And we've done it, as I say, on a much smaller per capita income. And I think in many ways ours has been a state which has got a number of things right. We've practiced openness and tolerance from time immemorial. We've made religious and ethnic diversity a part of our daily life rather than a source of division. We've overcome caste discrimination and class oppression that led Swami Vivekananda to call Kerala a lunatic asylum. But we've overcome that through education, through land reform, and through political democracy, as well as, of course, the great Navodhanam. And then we've honored our women. And I say that because I see so many women standing here in the room, because it is so unusual in India that Kerala has been early to empower women to lead productive and fulfilling lives. The very fact that every Kerala woman can read is itself unusual in India. That so many Malayali women have the strength to run their own families while their husbands are away in the Gulf or wherever else, that so much of struggle has resulted in true gender equity, that the literacy of Malayali women has led to a lower birth rate than China's without the coercion that the Chinese had to impose, that a girl born in Kerala can now expect to live 20 years longer than one born in Uttar Pradesh, and to make key life decisions such as attending college, choosing a profession, undertaking so-called men's work, and inheriting property, which most women outside Kerala could not have the right to do until the 1956 change of law. And the other remarkable thing about Kerala that I'm very proud of when I speak to outside audiences is its openness to the outside world and to influences from around the world, be it Arab, Roman, Chinese, British, Islamic, Christian, even Marxist. All of these have gone into making the Malayali mind. More than 2 millennia ago, India had relations, Kerala had relations, trade relations, not just with other parts of India, but with the Roman Empire, with the Arab world, with the Phoenicians, and even with the Chinese. Don't forget that the early Chinese explorations came to Kerala. And why is it that so many of us still have in our kitchens a cheen chetti? Where do you think it comes from? It's a Chinese wok. I mean, we have been welcoming of all of these influences. And so That is another big strength of ours. But along with that cosmopolitanism of openness and access and welcome, we've also had that spirit of reform. The great Kerala Navodhanam, we are the land of Sri Narayana Guru, whose immortal words, Oru Jadi, Oru Madam, Oru Devam Manushana, echoes such a fundamental sentiment in the Malayali heart that was not to be found in other parts of India. And it was not a call for uniformity, but for unity, rooted in shared human dignity. Our other great social reformers like Chattambi Swami, Mahatma Ayyankali, Saint Elias Kuriakose Chavara, and Vakkam Maulavi have all ensured that social justice and equality prevail in every community in Kerala. And because of their unrelenting crusade for human rights and freedoms, today we have unusual indicators that are not present elsewhere. That's the fact that women of all communities are as literate and educated as men, and Kerala's working women today enjoy greater rights and a higher minimum wage than anywhere else in India. And so I mention all of this because I feel before I talk about the future, I must celebrate what we have accomplished so far in the past and what is worth preserving for the future from the present. I am very proud to represent Thiruvananthapuram, where in a prominent junction, Palayam Junction in the state capital, you can see the magnificent spires of St. Joseph's Cathedral, and diagonally opposite you find the largest mosque in the city, the Palayam Juma Masjid. And right next to it is the oldest Ganesh temple in Thiruvananthapuram, recently renovated. Now this is synonymous with the idea of unity in diversity, which we proudly embrace and endorse. It's not tepid tolerance, it is actual active coexistence. The conscious choice to live, all differences notwithstanding, intertwined lives across communities, to partake in the joys and sorrows that in other parts of India and the world may have been drawn in blood and boundary. For us, instead of weaponizing differences for political gains, we find a daily lived rebuttal to the fundamentalist worldview. Now, I know that this is being challenged by some, but I do believe that the core Malayali experience is the one that I have described to you. And of course, along with this is the well-educated citizenry that is deeply political, that is fiercely aware of its democratic rights, and that therefore demands greater accountability and transparency from its elected representatives than anywhere else in India. In many ways, we are a no-nonsense people when it comes to politicians, and if a politician doesn't impress us, we tend, by and large, to turf them out fairly effectively. Now, I said all of this because these are things that I applaud, that I would like to see continuing. But I would also say that Kerala stands at a crossroads. We have unfortunately been watching for too long the slow unraveling of a state once hailed as a model of human development. Today, the signs of distress are unmistakable. Mounting debt on the part of the state. We have the second highest debt in India after Punjab. Ecological collapse, floods, landslides, you name it, everything that can go wrong with the ecology is happening. Fiscal disarray. We have a state that runs out of money to pay salaries by September and that borrows more money to do that. Today, sadly, our state government spends more on servicing its debt than it does on development projects. That's the reality that we are living with. And we have a governance culture that too often drifts between bankrupt inertia and partisan improvisation. But I refuse to succumb to cynicism and negativism. I believe Kerala can rise again if we summon the courage to confront the hard realities, accept some harsh truths, and embrace bold reforms. And this is a call to action, not just a speech. Let's begin with the numbers. Kerala's debt, as I mentioned, has ballooned to unsustainable levels, driven not by strategic investment. If you borrowed money to invest for growth, fine. That's not what you're borrowing for. You are borrowing. The pattern is borrowing to plug routine deficits. And as I mentioned, debt servicing is the largest single item on our budget. The state's reliance on remittances, liquor taxes, and lotteries is an emblem of desperation. It has become a substitute for sound fiscal planning. GST leakages, I'm sure the ICAI members know exactly what I'm talking about. Inefficiencies in tax collection further erode our revenue base. Meanwhile, our ecology grows under the weight of unchecked quarrying, sand mining, encroachments on our rivers and forests. And we have a terrible lack of jobs and record levels of youth unemployment, which are driving our young away from Kerala to other states or abroad. We need to attract the job-generating investments that will keep them here. But the crisis is not merely economic or environmental, it is moral. We have allowed a culture of entitlement to take root, where subsidies are expected, accountability is evaded, and the dignity of labor is simply dismissed. The Malayali work ethic is a source of pride outside Kerala. When I was minister covering the Gulf countries, so many ministers, Bahrain, Kuwait, so many of them said to me, "We love Malayali workers, send them here, they work so hard, they have such a terrific work ethic." What happens to that work ethic in Kerala? That's another question. I remember when I first became an MP, Shantan, I was invited by the Thrissur Management Association to address a seminar, and the topic they gave me was energizing Kerala. So I said, this is slightly puzzling, because I've been around the world, and everywhere I go, the Keralites are extremely energetic, hardworking, and successful. Why is it that in Kerala they need energizing? And you have to answer that mystery to me. But anyway, the truth is that this is the situation we are facing. And it has been dulled, I would say, within the state by years of political patronage and bureaucratic complacency. We must rediscover the value of effort, the nobility of enterprise, and the joy of creating rather than consuming. This renewal must begin with governance. Kerala needs a government that listens, learns, and leads, not one that merely promotes its own cadres. We must restore institutional integrity, empower our local bodies, especially our panchayats, and ensure that public servants serve the public, not their party interests. Transparency must be more than a slogan. It must be a daily practice. From procurement to appointments, the people deserve to know how decisions are made and why. We cannot constantly have PSC examinations where aspiring youth write the exams, get on the rank list, and never get the job because the jobs are being filled on an allegedly temporary contract basis by party cadres. That practice has to stop. And we must confront, therefore, the deeper malaise of the politicization of everything. Even the most routine administrative decisions are often filtered through party lenses. This has eroded public trust and stifled innovation. When every appointment, transfer, or policy tweak becomes a political battleground, governance suffers. We need to depoliticize the bureaucracy, protect merit, and restore the primacy of public interest over party interest. Equally urgent is the need to dismantle the thicket of overregulation that chokes enterprise. I have to tell you, when I first started looking into this, I had to point out in some of my speeches that in the US and in Singapore, it takes 3 days to start a business. In India, the average is 114 days. In Kerala, it is 236 days. Why? Why do we need so many regulations, procedures, obstacles, delays? Why does every file have to be signed by 4 people? And if the first one is away somewhere, then the file sits on his desk for weeks. When he comes back and signs it, then the second one up the chain is on other duties or is away or is on leave. It has to sit again for weeks. Something that in other countries can be done in 2 minutes can take months in our state. This has to be stopped. We have all learned painfully how well-meaning rules are morphing into barriers, discouraging investment, delaying approvals, and disincentivizing initiative. Kerala must move from a culture of controls to a culture of facilitation. Let us slash 75% of our regulations. Let us streamline bureaucratic procedures so that files don't have to take months to be cleared. Instead of 4 people signing a file, let's make it 2. If it's going to be that there are, as in one case I was told by a Kerala businessman, he had 963 compliances to meet every year for his factory. That should not be 963, that should be 9. There's something seriously wrong with the culture that requires any business to have 963 compliances. He actually gave me the list of all the compliances that's sitting in my home office. So we need to digitize governance. We need to just empower our citizens to act, to create, to prosper, not to just sit around waiting for decisions. We have to therefore rethink our economic model. Kerala must accept that it cannot thrive on remittances and retail alone. The new generation of Saudis and Kuwaitis and Bahrainis are all growing up. And they are now educated and ready to take the jobs that so far their parents' generation relied on Malayalis to do. There will no longer be so many opportunities in those Gulf countries, my friends. Those who are working there might last for a little longer. Some of them will come back. New opportunities will be few and far between. How do we create opportunities here in Kerala? Or are we going to keep exporting the brightest of our youth? We need to nurture industries that reflect our strengths: knowledge, creativity, sustainability. Let us invest in green technologies, promote high-tech agro-processing, support startups that seize new opportunities like biogenetics and ecotourism. You know, biogenetics, we have the most extraordinary gene pool in the world because of all these mixtures for 3,000 years in our population. We should be inviting in global companies to come and study the genetic makeup of our population. And it can be done. There are growing fields in which we have failed to exploit the opportunities we have, that nature and history have given us. High-tech value-added products, precision manufacturing, maritime and port development. Look at our long coastline. What have we done with it? Export of marine products, of course. Development of supply chains, logistics hubs need to be further explored. Tourism must be reimagined, not as a spectacle, but as an immersive experience rooted in culture and community. Our strengths in healthcare and wellness, which we all know about, make Kerala a major center for medical tourism spanning allopathic, Ayurvedic, and other forms of holistic healing. Above all, we must take pride in what we produce, from kayar to code. And that means that made in Kerala can one day become a mark of excellence. Education and health, yes, have long been our crown jewels, but even these are tarnishing. Our schools and colleges must prepare students, not just for exams, but for life, for critical thinking, for civic engagement, for global citizenship. Not just mugging up textbooks to write exams, but to think, because that's the skill that people want. Just today, I won't mention him because he's sitting in the audience, a friend of mine told me about his son in America who has invented an AI program that is going to help airline companies to divest 80% of their staff. The AI program will replace literally 45 out of 50 people that an airline hires. I said, how can your son be doing this and destroying so many families, homes, and dreams? But that's the world, that's technology, that is change. So just passing those exams and getting those jobs will do you no good. You need to be able to think, to be able to confront unfamiliar problems, and those are the opportunities you young people have to be prepared to seize, so that if you go into a job that gets quickly overtaken by technology, you are ready to take the next opportunity that a new technology can give you. We must therefore change our approach to education. Our hospitals too must be equipped, not just with infrastructure, but with compassion. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed both our strengths and our vulnerabilities. Let us learn from that experience and build resilient systems that serve all, especially the most vulnerable. Culture too must be reclaimed. Kerala's pluralism is its soul, but we are now seeing rising intolerance in our state. Communalism is rising in all communities. We must reaffirm our commitment to coexistence, dialogue, and mutual respect. The legacy of the Kerala Navodhanam reminds us that true progress lies not in division, but in uplift and unity. Let us teach our children both their history and empathy. Teach them not only heritage, but hope. And yes, let's also talk politics, because for too long Kerala's political discourse has been trapped in binaries: left versus right, secular versus communal, reformist versus conservative. But the real divide is between cynicism and possibility. I choose possibility. I believe politics can be a noble vocation rooted in service and guided by principle. In my very first election of 2009, I said something that I have repeated in every election since, and I'm proud to quote it to you, Yasin. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ശ്രീനാരായണ ഗുരു പറയില്ലേ മതമേതായാലും മനുഷ്യൻ നന്നായാൽ മതിയെന്ന്, അതുപോലെ ഞാൻ പറയുന്നു രാഷ്ട്രീയമേതായാലും രാഷ്ട്രം നന്നായാൽ മതി. അതാണ് എൻ്റെ മുദ്രാവാക്യം. ചിലവരത് കേട്ട് മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ടില്ലേ, പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ പറയാൻ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് 17 വർഷമായി. I believe politics can be a noble vocation. I believe leaders must earn trust, not through slogans, but through substance, through results, through action. And what I'm telling you is not just my ideas. This has been shaped by conversations with farmers and fisherfolk in my constituency, with teachers and traders, with nurses and nuns, with bureaucrats and politicians. It reflects the aspirations of youth who want opportunity without leaving home. I remember a young man, I've been doing so many convocations around Kerala since becoming an MP. And every time I get a chance to ask a student, so what do you want to do next? Children, thank you. What do you want to do next? They all say they want to leave the state. They want to go to another state, they want to go to a foreign country. And one young man, I had the time because the next student had not yet come up to the state, so I said, why do you want to leave? Don't you love your state of Kerala? Don't you want to work here? And his answer was, sir, what is there for me in Kerala? Isn't Kerala now an old age home? That really shook me. Actually, we are a very, very pleasant old age home. It's a great place to grow old in. But that's not enough. We have to create opportunities for the young, and that's what I've been talking about so far. So let me just say that elders want to live here in dignity without dependence, but without young people, we can't do that either. So let me just say that we can't forget that all of us are inheritors of a civilization that has forever striven against great odds, but always successfully in pursuit of developmental goals, having achieved social, religious, and economic justice. What stops us now from once again embracing that mantle of reform, remedying today's inadequacies, and turning stagnation into opportunity, excellence, entrepreneurship, and equality? You know, I'm going to boast a little bit about Thiruvananthapuram because we had the great pleasure of the Prime Minister dedicating the Vizhinjam International Seaport to the nation. That's a port that I had a great deal to do with from the time of Oommen Chandy's government, when he invited me to try and find someone who could bid for that port. We had 24 meters of undredged depth, just 8 nautical miles from the international sea lanes, and that port had never been developed. Every successful bid to build the port had been rejected because it involved a Chinese consortium, and our government rightly didn't want China to control such a major port. A man I didn't know till then, Gautam Adani, and I told him about the advantages of Vizhinjam Port, and I'm so glad that he came through with the first qualified purely Indian bid. And the UPA government in Delhi and the UDF government in Kerala happened to be together, and they approved that bid. And today, that port is one of the most modern, semi-automated ports in the entire country. And I have worked amongst the fisher folk, the Valsatholaligal of my Tiradesham, and I've seen and controlling the largest cranes in the world through a computer joystick and looking at a screen in this largely automated port brought absolutely a frisson of excitement and thrill through my heart and my veins. This is the transformation that we can see. We can bring the 21st century to our shores. We just have to work for it, fight for it, and have the vision for it. I know that even as we chart this luminous trajectory, we cannot ignore the entrenched structural and systemic challenges that threaten to hinder our forward march. And this is where I want the youngsters to step in. We can't just do piecemeal adjustments. We want a comprehensive economic approach that encourages, which modernizes labor policies, for example, ensuring that trade unions evolve into responsible stakeholders of development rather than obstacles to our progress. In fact, we must outlaw such outdated, regressive, and frankly destructive practices as hartals. Kerala is one of the very few places in the country where hartals are still routinely resorted to. And I can tell you, in 2009, when I first contested what has now become the first of 4 successful elections, I made a promise that I've repeated ever since, and I've kept that promise. I said I will never support a hartal, even if my own party calls it. And I have done that. Fortunately, my party and the UDF have only called 2 hartals in the last 17 years, and I oppose them both. And I will continue to do so, because while I believe that we always have a right to protest in a democracy, we have no right to obstruct others, to coerce others, to prevent others from working and from living their lives. There is no democratic right anywhere in the world to do that except here in Kerala. That an old patient going to a hospital can be stopped on the street. That a child going to write an exam in school can be prevented from going to a school. That a bus on the street taking people on their daily business can have the tires, have the air taken out of their tires. That a shopkeeper would be forcibly forced to down the shutters in a shop. This is unheard of. This is criminal, antisocial behavior, and it must be disallowed by law. And that's something we must fight for in this state. Same with Nokukuli. What on earth is Nokukuli? I think we all know what it is. But how on earth can it be allowed to survive in the 21st century? We need instead to promote a sense with the trade unions that they are part of the success of the state. That when the state and the businesses they work for prosper, they will prosper too. But they are stakeholders, not opponents. That we must have sectoral innovation. We must integrate Kerala's strengths with education and technology, with new avenues of opportunity, so more workers can be found in shipbuilding, in logistics, in whatever, all sorts of fields. This is a challenge we must meet with resilience and with innovation. And I want to say to the young people, you've got to be directly engaged. You are educated, you can be informed voters that they celebrate and they prosper in outside. They do not want to see in their own state. That has to change. We have to invest in you, the young people. We have to set the right example. We have to create conditions for you to thrive. And of course, the old guard is fading already. It's time for the young now to rise and shape tomorrow with creativity, with enterprise, with the confidence to see yourselves as stewards of the future. Now, we know there are plenty of new technologies coming on. Many of you are probably studying some of them. You better, if not, because they are going to be important. Robotics, machine learning, blockchain, renewable energy technology, and of course, artificial intelligence. We need to invest in and capitalize on our human capital. And indeed, we used to have the first mover advantage in the field of information and communication technology. The very first Technopark in India was the one in Thiruvananthapuram. It's now lagged behind so many others around the country. What a shame. We can't let that happen again. In the 21st century, we need to do the cutting edge work in our own state. We have the brain power. What we are not doing is incentivizing it so that you will be in the forefront and it'll be done here in our state, rather than you having to go off to Bangalore or Gurugram to work in these areas. We also have to ensure that academia and industry come closer, that we actually see a symbiotic relationship between companies on the one hand, businesses in Kerala, and the academic world. They shouldn't be in two separate silos. Why can't we develop, of course, conditions that will attract the leading companies in the world to our Technopark in Trivandrum or our Info Park in Kochi, and where the young Malayalis don't have to go outside the state to get work. And I certainly hope that the culture I'm talking about will mean that companies will will approach universities with their own ideas and fund graduate students to test their feasibility and so on. And I think in many ways, giving students real-time experience while they're studying will be cost-effective for companies, but it'll be beneficial for all of you as well, and it'll be a kind of win-win partnership for both sides. I really do feel that we don't just need to improve educational quality, we need to cast Kerala in a progressive, technologically advanced and 21st century mold. Turn it into a beacon that draws ambitious young minds to stay in the state and maybe even to attract people from outside our state to come and work in Kerala because we're the best place to work. We have a great environment. Nature has been kind to us so far, unless, of course, we're all drowning in landslides and earthquakes. We've got to do something about that separately. What we have to do is see our assets as vital and tangible and convert our current brain drain into a brain gain by making the conditions in our state that keeps the brains here. I should tell you, of course, that I'm saying all this in a context where the unemployment rate amongst our youth is one of the worst, and it's actually again the second worst in India after Jammu and Kashmir, where there has been violence and insurgency, and actually youth unemployment is high there. But here, we have 29.9% youth unemployment for the 15 to 29 age group, according to the latest periodic labor force survey. 19.3% of young men in Kerala are unemployed. 47.1% of females in Kerala are unemployed. Shocking. It's the one area where male-female equality doesn't exist. And it's strange. It matches, it happens while you have high educational attainment. So there is clearly a disconnect between learning and livelihood. We are not endowing our students with the skills required to be employable in today's world. Migration, which has long been a safety valve, we export our unemployment. That is going to contract, it's already begun contracting, and yes, our population is aging. So we need, yes, also to make vigorous investments in geriatric care, in health infrastructure, in social welfare schemes, all of that too. I'm not saying we abandon our responsibility, but if we are to shed the stagnation that has historically bedeviled us, we must diversify our economy, as I've suggested earlier, and create an ecosystem of opportunity and possibility so that our youth may once again believe in the future of this land. It is not an exaggeration to say that many of our young people sadly feel they have no prospects here. But that is not irreversible. We can and ought to change that. Now, let me just end on a slightly more positive note. If we look at the haunting images that seared our collective memory of the floods that ravaged Kerala in 2018, the landslides that ravaged Wayanad last year, all of those things in the face of that terrible devastation, it wasn't just the government machinery that rose to the occasion. It was the people. Ordinary citizens turned into extraordinary volunteers. Neighbors became first responders. Fisherfolk in my constituency took their boats, gave up their livelihood, and went off to the flood-affected areas to rescue lives. Many of you must have seen that incredibly moving picture of a fisherman lying in the water so an old lady could step on his back to get into the boat. This is the spirit of Kerala that I want to praise to all of you. When students, professionals, others left the comfort of their homes to become lifesavers, communities mobilized to deliver food and offer shelter, techies were creating websites to actually help people connect, find lost ones, find loved ones, get food delivered, rescue stranded families, rebuild lives. This is something that I feel reflects the strength of the Malayali spirit. And to my mind, the strength lies not just in our infrastructure and institutions, it lies in our people, in your compassion, your resolve, your solidarity. Let us preserve and cherish those values. In a world where, as we've seen in places like Gaza and Ukraine, people have become indifferent to human suffering. Let us be different in Kerala. Let us show that our society is rooted in cherished values of human decency and dignity, and that this young new generation will not be content to sit on the sidelines or rest on its laurels, but will step in, speak up, and serve. Let me just say to all of you as I wrap up, the time for passive lament is over. The time for active renewal has come. Let us build a Kerala that is fiscally prudent, ecologically resilient, economically vibrant, and socially just. Let us move beyond cynicism and reclaim the promise of our land, not with nostalgia, but with vision, not with rhetoric, but with resolve, not with division, but with unity. Kerala deserves nothing less. Thank you all very much for listening to me. Let us try and create a new future. I look forward to responding to your questions. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir. What a fervent and inspiring call for action, truly. I now request CA Shaji PJ, Secretary of Thrissur Management Association, to kindly moderate the question-answer session. We have received a few questions from the students of Thrissur Branch of ICAI as well as the Thrissur Management Association.
respected chief guest, distinguished speaker, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, all dignitaries on and off the dais, members of ICAI and Thrissur Management Association, students. Today, due to time constraint, we have made an arrangement. Instead of going for a floor participation, we have collected a few questions and shared with me. And I'll read out the question, and the person who gave the question can stand up when I ask the question. The topic is youth-centric, and so I have selected more youth questions and one or two senior people's questions also. I'll start with the seniors' questions. The first question was given by Mr. P.K. Vijaykumar IRS, retired Commissioner of Income Tax. His question is, the Gen Z youth all over the world is passing through a difficult phase.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. The Gen Z youth all over the world is passing through a difficult phase, and that has resulted in anarchy in some countries. As a leader who inspires youth, what message would you give to the Gen Z youth of Kerala who are frustrated due to limited job opportunities in spite of Kerala's literacy rate to motivate them?
No, I think this is exactly the problem in many of these countries. The young people are revolting against unemployment, are revolting against the indifference of the ruling class, are revolting against the politics of business as usual, and they're also revolting against massive corruption. Now, all those ingredients are also present in our country, let's not get it wrong. At the same time, we can overcome them. What we need is to infuse a sense of commitment and purpose into our people by painting them a vision and saying, let's work for this vision. Let us not, in my view, confine ourselves to only looking at the negatives. Let's point to the negatives and say, we will fight against these negatives, but here are the positives, here are the things we can do. That's what I've tried to do, and my remarks are only a beginning. Much of these ideas need to be fleshed out and developed further, but we have the professionals who can do it. Just now, for example, last week, a bunch of retired Kerala bureaucrats have published a book of proposals that will really help transform Kerala. I have not fully read it yet, but I'm very excited that such a book exists, and they called it Beyond Cynicism, which is not a bad title. So I want to see ideas like that. We have the talent. Don't get me wrong. Kerala has the talent. We have the brain power. The one thing we have is brains. We see this everywhere. What we don't have is, unfortunately, political vision. We don't have a far-reaching perspective on how to develop for the future, and we don't do enough to involve our young people in this enterprise. So rather than alienating the young by continuing the worst practices, let us find new solutions. I still believe, just as Kerala was a model state in human development, it can become a model state in economic development too. We can get it right, but we all have to believe in it and work for it.
People have enough abilities, but how can we utilize it? How can we use those?
That's what my speech was about. You can't ask me to repeat the whole thing again.
Okay, sir. We'll go to the next question. This question is by Ranjan Sridharan, a senior member of Thrissur Management Association. During the 1970s and 1980s, Kerala was widely regarded as being ahead of Tamil Nadu in terms of economic development and overall prosperity. Those were the times when Kerala attracted cheap migrant labor from Tamil Nadu. However, over the decades since, Tamil Nadu's economy was made remarkable progress, especially in industrial output, and has even narrowed the gap in human development indicators, despite perceptions of greater political corruption. Would you agree with this assessment? If so, in your view, what were the policies that Tamil Nadu got right and which contributed to their economic trajectory, and what lessons can Kerala draw from Tamil Nadu's model for its own growth and development?
No, I agree entirely with the analysis and the assessment, but I mean, we have to accept that Tamil Nadu does have some advantages we don't have. There's far more land available, for example, to encourage and facilitate factories and manufacturing and so on. But even within what we have available, we've been disastrous. The most famous example is what happened in 2006 when the first Umanchandi government had negotiated an agreement with BMW to come and manufacture or assemble their cars in Kerala. And everything had been discussed, agreed at the working level. The thing was going to generate 10,000 jobs in Kerala. There was great excitement in the government. The BMW people landed to sign the agreement with the chief minister and the industry minister, and the day they landed, there was a hartal in the state. They tried to come out of the hotel. They found stones being thrown at cars. They found airs being let out of the tires of buses. They found people storming around, screaming and so on. They rushed back into their hotel. They quietly cancelled the plan to sign anything. They went back to Germany. The next month, they signed the same agreement with Tamil Nadu, and the 10,000 jobs went there. So one thing very obviously, that we have our biggest enemies in Kerala have been our own politics and our own self-defeating, destructive approach to our future. As I said, one of the first things I would do, if I could, would be to ban hartals, get all parties to sign up, just completely make it illegal to do this, so that this kind of thing never happens again. And the other thing that I genuinely believe is that we have to create a serious culture of ease of doing business. And by that I mean, I already mentioned in the speech, slashing regulations. Another idea floated in the past is to pass India's first Investor Protection Act. What is an Investor Protection Act? It doesn't exist in any Indian state, but it does exist in some foreign countries. It is basically a guarantee to an investor that the money he sinks into a project will not be lost for non-business reasons, that he will not be prevented by either political obstructionism or trade union activism or bureaucratic obstacles, that he will actually be able to do his work. And then if the market means he loses money, that's his problem, but not for extraneous considerations. There are models of this. We should bring one into Kerala and give an assurance to people that this is something that will protect their interests. I've often pointed out, every state in India sadly has experienced the tragedy of farmers' suicides. But only one state has experienced twice the experience of investor suicides, and that is Kerala. Twice in the last 15 years, people have brought their life savings to the state, sunk the money in, and after having put all their money, once in one case was building an entire factory, in one case something else, they were not allowed to get off the ground because of last-minute objections and essentially, either for political reasons or for rent-seeking reasons, whatever it was, losing everything that they'd worked their life for and dreamt, 2 people have committed suicide. That should never, ever happen again. And that ease of doing business has to be not just a slogan, but a tangible reality reflected in things like cutting, for example, cutting regulations, simplifying laws, modernizing some laws, and at the same time passing an Investor Protection Act, as well as banning hartals, banning no kukuli, and so on. There's a lot to be done. I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy, but if we don't try to do it, we're condemning ourselves to even more of the kind of suffering that we are going through now macroeconomically.
Kin sir, we can hope for the best. I can go for 2-3 questions.
1 or 2 more is maximum.
Okay. Next is by Neha Muralidharan, a chemical engineering student from Government Engineering College, Thrissur. What's your opinion on contribution of the startup and entrepreneurship sector in Kerala to creating career opportunities for the youth?
Look, I'm very big on this. In fact, some of you may be aware of a controversy at the beginning of the year when I both made a speech at the Shashi Management Association and then wrote an article in the New Indian Express based on the figures that I saw in a global report on startups, which seemed to show that Kerala had made a dramatic progress of 257%, and that lots of new startups had come on, clearances were happening very fast, and so on. I was happily thumping the drums and praising that, saying this is the way to turn around. And then, of course, I got hit by a reality check that unfortunately the report, though it was an international report that I read, was based on figures supplied by the government of Kerala, and the opposition and some business community critics said those figures were not based on reality. They were based on a very limited sample in 1 or 2 big cities like Kochi, but that on the whole, the startup culture was not what the government was claiming it was. That doesn't vitiate my core argument, which is we must encourage startups. So whether the state government was exaggerating or not, or whether it was generalizing from a small sample or not, what they have done with some startups, they should certainly do across the state. Startups are very much the way to go. As I said, Kerala's are not lacking in brains. If you have brains, you're not lacking in ideas. So what you need is startup capital, you need encouragement, you need an ecosystem that will help you start a business. When you start a business, you employ people. So you're tackling youth unemployment as well. I'm all in favor of that, and I'm a very, very big believer in startups generally. And I think that if the figures I read about Kerala are not right, let's make them right. Let's make them right for tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. One more question, the last one question. Sir, do you think the Kerala should rethink that is higher education system so as to focus more on skill-based training and vocational studies instead of only degrees?
Not instead of. I think both are required. Okay. So my own view is that, first of all, I recommended in the UDF manifesto in 29, when I chaired the manifesto committee, that there should be the Kerala Higher Education Reforms Commission. The way I describe the commission is not what the LDF government did when they came to power. They did create a reforms commission. I don't know what the report was, it never made public, and we don't know what changes have happened in higher education as a result. What I wanted was a commission that would include not just vice chancellors and heads of universities, but also representatives of teachers, representatives of students, representatives of their families, and representatives of businesses in the state, so that collectively they could talk about what was needed to change in the education system. I mentioned one idea in my speech. We had limited time. I couldn't go into everything, but one idea I mentioned was this practice of greater industry-academia interface and internships for students while they're studying. But there are very many other things that could be done to actually encourage transformations in education. We can learn from other countries here. There's nothing to be ashamed of. The Germans, for example, have a very, very good system of building in, with government support, an opportunity for young people to go off and try their hands at vocational skills. It can be done after high school. Many people, frankly, even in Kerala, drop out before they get to the 12th standard. Let's immediately catch them and give them an opportunity to learn vocational skills. Some come into college, but essentially are studying degrees that will not get them any jobs. I don't know if you're aware, there is a FICCI study that says that 82% of the engineering graduates applying for jobs in India today are unemployable. 82%. Can you imagine? When Shantanu and I were in the All India Professionals Congress, we did a study in Kerala of 10,000 Kerala engineering graduates. We found that 66% of those graduates were in jobs that did not require an engineering degree. So that means that what they're studying is irrelevant to the job market. They are doing a job that didn't require the degree they studied because what they studied was not relevant. We need to make our studies more relevant. That's not just vocational. That is connecting to the marketplace, connecting to modern technology. When I was briefly minister in the HRD ministry, as it used to be called, we passed a rule, which is actually, I hope, still in force. It certainly was implemented by us, that nobody will be given a permission to start a polytechnic unless they have a direct relationship with an active industry within a 30-kilometer radius of their polytechnic. We were tired of hearing that polytechnics had teachers teaching outdated techniques from out-of-date textbooks and not actually giving people skills that they could use if they actually enter the marketplace.
Your nice presentation and interaction. Thank you.
Request CA Sanjo Nambadan, Chairperson of Thrissur Branch of ICAI, and Shri Padma Kumar C, President of Thrissur Management Association, to present a memento to our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, MP, as a token of our love and gratitude. Maria from Sims has drawn a picture of our chief guest Shashi Tharoor sir and is gifting it to him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my proud privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this momentous occasion, jointly organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Thrissur Branch, and the Thrissur Management Association. First and foremost, we extend our deepest gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Honorable MP, for his graciously accepting our invitation and addressing us with such inspiring and thought-provoking insights. Sir, your presence has truly elevated the dignity and stature of this program. Our heartfelt thanks also goes to C.A. Babu Abraham Kallivel sir, our Central Council member, for being with us today and for your continuous guidance and support to our profession. I would also like to place on record our sincere appreciation to our respective chairman, C.A. Sanjo Namboden, Chairman of ICAI Thrissur Branch, and Mr. Padma Kumar, Chairman of TMA Thrissur. A special word of gratitude to Dr. C.A. Shantakumar sir for arranging such a fabulous function, which has indeed brought immense value to all of us. We also acknowledge the presence of respected past chairmen of both ICAI Thrissur and TMA Thrissur, who have always been source of inspiration and strength. To the members of both esteemed organizations and our dear students, thank you all for your enthusiastic participation. Your involvement and energy have truly added vibrance to this program. Finally, I extend my gratitude to everyone who worked behind the scenes, the organization teams, coordinators, and staff for their tireless efforts in making this event a grand success. On behalf of ICAI Thrissur Branch and TMA, I once again thank each and every one of you for your presence and support. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you, sir. With that, we come to the end of the interactive session with Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Once again, let me take this opportunity to thank all of you on behalf of the Thrissur branch of ICAI and Thrissur Management Association for accepting our invitation, being here with us today, and making this event a grand success. Thank you. Kindly rise for the national anthem.
शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय जय
Thank you all. Please note that tea is served outside this hall. Thank you.